While it's certainly true that we live in a society, we do also live in a dystopia. And throughout the history of literature, there's been a lot of really cool dystopias. Like you have the ultra nationalistic fascist Ingsoc in 1984. You've got the hedonistic post scarcity utopia dystopia of Brave New World. You have the time machine where humanity gets divided into two with like this race of Untermensch that eat the Aryan people that live on the surface. And then you even got something like Children of Men where people stop being able to have children and it looks at the impact of humanity facing a world without a future. Unfortunately, we don't live in any of these dystopias. We live in one that's way lamer than all of this. We don't get 2 minutes of hate. We don't get Feelies and Soma. We don't get cool mutant humans that live under the surface and rule those of us on the surface with a iron fist. We don't even get victory gin and victory cigarettes. We don't even get crappy, cheap, government mass produced booze and alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. I guess we get OnlyFans, but that's not government subsidized. At least not yet. But yeah, that's the utopia we live in. It's really, really lame. And I think to me, this recalls something that I always think about when this sort of thing comes up. One of the ultimate messages of Tolkien's literature is that evil is ultimately really pathetic. It's really pathetic, it's really lame, it's not cool. It's not always like this big giant demon who's going to eat the world or like this warlord. It's just very petty and really shitty. And that kind of describes the current situation. We don't get Big Brother. We don't get Morlocks. We don't get. We live in the world of COVID. So, that being said, let's talk about what's going on in my home province of Ontario. Because it's depressing. It's really depressing. One of the things I've noticed throughout this whole crisis is that in the vast majority of cases, we only get negative side effects from things. We don't even get silver linings. So they're doing all this nonsense that we're going to get into, but they're also forcing people to go back to the offices and not letting people work from home anymore. So you still have to wear a mask. You still have to carry around your pass card. You still have to take a third, fourth, fifth, who God knows how many doses. You aren't allowed to have physical contact with another human being. But you aren't allowed to work from home anymore because you have to make that PowerPoint presentation at the office. You can't do that on your home computer. What are these people thinking about? Okay, so anyways, let's get into this. Ontario to offer third dose of COVID-19 vaccine to select vulnerable populations. I mean, isn't that cool? Now, to be fair, I have complained about this in the past, where I've said that I've never heard of a vaccine that requires 3 initial doses, and there are actually vaccines, a number of them, that do, so that's not that weird. At the same time, though, you always gotta wonder when it's like, okay, guys, don't worry, there only needs 2 doses. The vaccine is specifically designed to be taken in 2 doses. That's what you need to do, and then you're protected. We're gonna need you to take a third one now. Is that safe? That's not what it was designed and tested for. I don't know, but this is the only vaccine we got. You're gonna have to take a third dose because it might do something against the Delta variant, whatever the fuck that even is. So, a complete 2-dose COVID-19 vaccine series provides strong protection against COVID-19 infection and severe outcomes, including against the Delta variant in the general population, officials said in the document released ahead of the announcement. However, for some populations, and by some populations we mean all populations, has there been a single case throughout this entire conflict or this entire thing where whenever they say some, it doesn't mean everyone? It's like, oh, some people need to wear masks. No, everybody does. Some people need to social distance. Everybody does. So yeah, one study found that vaccine boosts are very effective in transplanting patients. So yeah, I mean, they're gonna just start doing this to everybody. I don't think that this is really controversial at this point. I've heard people say that this was like a meme, but if they're already talking about this, I mean, it's pretty clear what the purpose. Like, I don't even have to read this article. COVID-19 third vaccine doses to become available to at-risk patients. 660 new cases in Ontario. I mean, clearly the implication is there is if everyone had a third dose, we wouldn't have the 660 new cases. It's interesting because I think it was down below that actually last year, even before the vaccine started rolling out. So yeah, we're gonna start having a third dose of the vaccine. That's pretty cool. Once again, I don't think it's been tested. I mean, it was designed technically for 2 doses. So even if we're gonna accept that was safe, then it's just like no, the third dose isn't gonna do anything. I mean, I don't. It doesn't make any sense. Let's see here. Third dose of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine lowers infection risk. Israel study finds. And I mean, if there's one country that I trust when it comes to anything, it's Israel. I mean, if Israel's going to tell me, then definitely. It's almost as if meme magic is real. Also, the term jab is really G slur. It's really, really G slur, but I can't say that word on YouTube. So the J slur is telling you to get the other J, whatever. Okay, so let's see here. So British Columbia had apparently lifted their mask mandate, and now it's back because it's never going to go away. Just when you thought it was safe to go away, look, guys. I know we told you that once everyone gets vaccinated, you could all go back to work, but the problem is about 10% of the population is infected with COVID at the moment, and about 1% of the population is unvaccinated. If that 1% of the vaccinated population were vaccinated, the other 9% of people who were vaccinated but got the Delta variant wouldn't have gotten the Delta variant. Do you understand that? And the whole like, oh, it's the unvaccinated people, they're like zombies. It's their fault. That kind of lame shit. It's literally like we're supposed to expect that okay, the total number of cases is the same as it was when 0% of the population was vaccinated, but 80% of the population is now vaccinated, and it's all the remaining like 20%. I guess because they've lifted the law, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You'd also think there's a herd immunity aspect where people aren't passing the disease anymore since they've been vaccinated from it. And shouldn't some of the unvaccinated people have immunity to it from having gotten it in the past? So, like, I'd like to see what the immunity number is if you include people who have survived it and should have a natural. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any kind of sense, to be honest. So we have that, and then we have some other cool stuff that we can talk about, and that is vaccine passports. Woohoo! Look, guys, on this channel, we are very solidly pro choice. A woman has the right to do anything she wants with her body. If she wants to brutally kill the unborn child that's growing within her, up to and including the day that that child would be born, then that's okay. That's part of personal freedom. If she doesn't want to get the jab, that is not part of personal freedom. That's not my body, my choice. You have to get that vaccine because you know what they said, if everyone had just gotten the vaccine, things would be back to normal. We wouldn't have to wear masks anymore. There wouldn't be social distancing anymore if everyone had just gotten vaccinated. Even though most people did get vaccinated and things didn't go back to normal, look, we can't hold them to things that they say. I mean, trust between the citizen and the government isn't important in times of national oh wait, it kind of is. Well, whatever. So some of the logic in this article is pretty J-slurish. I'm sure you can guess what the J-slur is. Federal and provincial governments Private businesses, as well as Canada's biggest banks, have in recent weeks announced plans to implement mandatory vaccination policies for many of their returning staff. So yeah, a lot of big companies now, such as the banks, airlines, the federal government, the provincial government, you're gonna have to get that jab. You're gonna have to get the G slur jab. Um, these vaccine mandates require their employees to be vaccinated against COVID 19, but do employers have the right to impose such mandates? What if employees refuse? Now, the logic you're about to see in the remainder of this is amazing. I just want you to keep in mind any wrongful dismissal case, anytime somebody's claimed racism or sexism or gender, whatever, anytime they've said I've been abused or something like that, just as we're going through this article. Do companies face legal hurdles in imposing vaccine mandates? That will likely depend on the particular circumstances that an employer and employee find themselves in, and the law will differ. He says, based on a number of factors. For example, the particular industry or whether the employees are unionized. Um, I'm gonna say something that probably a lot of people are gonna get angry at me for. I can understand in certain industries, like involving healthcare or seniors, or even something like airlines, I can kind of get why a mandate in those might make sense. I don't really, I don't know. For other stuff, it just kind of seems like bullshit, but I think there's a logical case that could be made that if people are dealing with seniors and immunocompromised people, it's probably a good idea that they have whatever additional protection is that it provides. I know people are going to get angry at me over that, but whatever. Let's see here. There are many misconceptions and incorrect assumptions about the law. They can't necessarily compel, but they can certainly ask for evidence of vaccination because they have an underlying obligation to that worker and others in the workplace to provide a healthy and safe workplace, he said in an interview. This is a very, very J slurish way to look at it. Companies don't care about this stuff. Beyond maybe they care a little bit about getting sued. But I've never seen like any real evidence of this. Tell this to people who work at a fast food place where they get burnt every day from the fryer or all kinds of other just nonsense. It's so lame. However, Toronto-based employer lawyer said Howard Levitt said that in Canadian law, safety always trumps privacy. That's not true at all when it comes to anything that is racially or religiously based. Well, non-Christian religiously based. That means employers will be permitted by the courts and arbitrators to have compulsory vaccination policies except for religious and medical exemptions. That is for a non-Christian. Um, can a company uh, fire an employee who refuses to get vaccinated? I believe they have the rights as an employer to mandate it and to terminate people who won't comply, said Levitt. Now, I don't know if Levitt is a J slur, but it from this logic he probably is. No, guys, it's fine. It's only bad if government's doing it. If employees are like spying on you in your personal life, that's okay. That's good. It's good. Let's see. Or submit to regular testing. I don't buy the regular. I think the regular testing thing is bullshit. I think if you don't get the vaccine and you submit to regular testing, they're just going to demand it you to get it anyways. Let's see here. Uh, Lucifero said someone who refuses to adhere to an employer's vaccine mandate because of a medical condition or religious belief cannot be fired because that would be considered discrimination under the Human Rights Code. But the reality is that your employer can let you go because you haven't been vaccinated. An employer could actually let you go for no particular reason at all. That's why we call a without clause to termination. Your employer doesn't even need a reason to let you go. So I mean, doesn't this kind of contradict this? What about charter rights to protect me if I don't want to be vaccinated? What's important for people to understand, said constitutional expert Wayne McCabe, professor emeritus of law, is that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms only applies to government action. That is a lie. That is a massive, massive lie. If I've seen the number of times that human rights tribunals have hurt private industries, affirmative action, all of these fucking lawsuits. Maybe this is something where, like, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms specifically isn't the document they're referencing, but it's nonsense. These things, of course, do. Otherwise, affirmative action shouldn't be the thing. Otherwise, companies, like, I don't know. But only government action is restricted by the charter. That's definitely 100% the case. There are potentially at least 3 sections of the charter that can be used by a government employee to challenge a vaccine mandate. 7. Who even cares that it's not legitimate, anyways? It has to be something that's akin to a religion in your life. Yeah, so. Okay, let's see here. Vaccine passports roll out across Canada. Businesses will take a lead. Let's see here. So BC has adopted a proof of vaccine card. And Quebec has one now. Manitoba has one. Doug Ford claims Ontario is not going to have one, which means we'll probably have one in the next week or so. Basically, at this point, all of the municipalities in the province are screaming for a vaccine passport. Didn't they say we weren't going to have a vaccine passport? Didn't they say that that was, like, crazy people and insanity and that kind of thing? I mean, as with a lot of this stuff, I'm not even really talking about the merits of the issue or not, but it's like, I don't get why it's okay for them to just lie flagrantly about this stuff. Like, why we're supposed to accept that and say, oh, it's the government. It's okay for them to lie about life or death issues when it's convenient. I mean, I get it. You don't want to release, like, terrorist intel and there's secret operations and stuff behind the scenes. But if you're going to keep lying about really fundamental shit, no one should believe you. No one. Let's see here. So large events, city agencies, all require vaccine. There's the international travel vaccine passport. Now, once again, I'm a little more sympathetic towards this because countries have control over whoever they let in. I don't really think that that's, like, a controversial statement, especially in these circles. If a country doesn't want to allow unvaccinated people to go there, that actually really doesn't bother me. I mean, it's their decision to make. It's a sovereignty issue. And we're going to finish off with Quebec's vaccine passport. Proof of full vaccine will be required to play team sports, go to a bar, or visit a zoo. Visit a zoo? But zoos are outdoors. Why would you? I thought you did, like, you don't need to wear a mask outdoors, so why would you need to wear one at a zoo? I don't know about that one. From non-essential activities, like, well, if they're bars are, like, where people buy food, so I guess buying food is, like, a non-essential activity. The passport is a QR code, which is soy as fuck. Here's a primer about what you need to know. It literally says soy. How does it work? Let's see here. Printed out version is also valid. You need to scan your QR code. Where will it be required? Festivals, gyms, sporting events, training facilities. Restaurants and bars will require a passport to sit on the terraces, but not for takeout. Yeah, you need a vaccine to sit outside and eat. Escape rooms, zoos, bingo halls, bowling alleys. They have a big list. Not yet for public schools. I'm sure that's coming, but I don't know, guys. I think that stuff sounds great. I'm sure it's not going to expand to essential services. They're telling us that that's not going to happen. And I think we can trust the government of Quebec. Like we can trust all Canadian governments and all Western governments for it. So yeah, I hope that gets people excited. Lots of fun shit coming. God bless, and we'll talk real soon.